Imagine this. You've given your entire life to a church. Decades of free labor, endless donations, loyalty without question. And when you're sick, dying, and desperate for compassion, the pastor won't even visit you. Instead, he sends his assistant to ask for money. But what the pastor didn't know was that Grandma was about to deliver the most savage, soul-crushing revenge from beyond the grave. If you've ever wished you could teach someone a lesson they'd never forget, hit that like button, subscribe, and get ready for one of the most jaw-dropping revenge stories you'll ever hear. My grandmother was the kind of woman you'd think churches would build statues for. She gave nearly 50 years of her life to Big White Church, volunteering, organizing events, scrubbing floors, cooking for potlucks, mentoring children, and donating money. She wasn't rich. Every dollar she gave was money she could have used on herself or her family. But to her, giving to the church was giving to God. For decades, she was their most faithful servant. But here's the thing about loyalty. It's easy to take for granted, because the moment she grew old, frail, and too weak to keep working for free, it was like she didn't exist anymore. The phone calls stopped. The visits stopped. The church she had loved and served like family turned its back on her. Still, she clung to hope. She loved her pastor, whom I'll call Pompous Pastor. And even though he rarely acknowledged her, she still prayed he would show kindness in her final days. But kindness never came. When she was dying, she made one last attempt. She reached out, asking him to come by, help her plan her funeral, maybe even promise to preach at her service. You'd think he'd leap at the chance to honor someone who had given so much. But Pompous Pastor, he couldn't even be bothered to pick up the phone. Instead, he sent his assistant, let's call him Assistant Pastor, and when Ass Pastor arrived at her home, do you think he asked about her pain? Do you think he prayed with her, comforted her, or thanked her for decades of service? Number. He had one message, delivered with a smug little smile. Remember the church in your will. That's all. Not, we love you. Not, we'll be there for you. Just, leave us your money. That was the breaking point. In that moment, Grandma realized something gut-wrenching. She had allowed her church to break her heart over and over again. And this was the last time. But what no one knew, not even Ass Pastor, was that Grandma already had a plan. You see, years before that visit, she and Grandpa had written a will. At the time, she was still blinded by loyalty, so she had set aside an enormous amount of money, 20% of her entire estate, to Big White Church. When the lawyer read the number aloud after her death, you could hear her heirs gasp. It was a staggering fortune. But then, she made changes, because she realized something profound. Her church only loved her when she was useful, when she was working, when she was giving. But the moment she needed them, they weren't there. So, she decided to leave them something else, something unforgettable. At the will reading, the room was packed. Family, friends, and of course, Pompous Pastor and Ass Pastor. They came in smug, probably fantasizing about all the things they'd buy with Grandma's generous gift. The lawyer began. First, he read a statement in Grandma's own handwriting. She explained how she had once set aside a double tithe for Big White Church. She acknowledged the enormous amount of money. Everyone in the room could feel the tension rising, except the pastors, who looked ready to burst with greed. Then came the twist. Grandma explained that she decided to match her bequest to the church with the love they had shown her in her final years. Her lawyer paused. Then he read, bequest to Ass Pastor, 1 cent. Bequest to Pompous Pastor, 1 cent. Bequest to Big White Church, 1 cent. The room fell silent. And then, like a scene from a comedy movie, you could almost see their jaws hit the floor. They sat frozen, faces slack, like someone had injected their mouths with a gallon of Novocaine. The family wanted to laugh so badly, but we didn't dare. Because we knew Grandma, and we knew she wasn't finished. She was setting them up for the knockout punch. The lawyer continued. There is one last bequest, he said, to a charity called... He named it. I'll call it Black Charity. Now most of us had no idea what Black Charity was, but judging by the look on pompous pastor and ass pastors' faces, you'd think the lawyer had just announced her estate was going to the demonic baby eaters of America. Their eyes bulged. Their skin went pale. You could feel the dread radiating off them. Why? Because Black Charity wasn't just any nonprofit. It was run by a large black church just a few miles away. They provided free food and clothing for the poor, foster care programs, senior meals, legal aid, community outreach, real, tangible help. Years ago, Big White Church had actually supported Black Charity financially. But then, they cut ties. Publicly, they claimed it was because of the social gospel. Privately, everyone knew the truth. In the Deep South, Big White Church didn't want to support an organization led by black leaders. They saw them as not staying in their place. It had been ugly. There were lawsuits, accusations, bitterness. And ever since, the two churches had been enemies. So when the lawyer announced Grandma's bequest, every white eye in that room turned to those two pastors. And the message was clear. She was calling them out. Her actions spoke louder than words. You ignored me. You disrespected me. You showed me no love. But this black church, they care for the community. They help the forgotten. They live their faith. They are better people than you. And they deserve my money more than you ever will. The lawyer let the silence stretch, giving everyone time to watch the pastor squirm. Then he named the amount. And it was the exact same staggering sum Grandma had once earmarked for Big White Church. Every cent. The room erupted in muffled gasps. Some of us couldn't help it. We burst into laughter. Others just sat in awe, realizing what had just happened. Grandma hadn't just denied the church money. She had exposed them. She had delivered a rebuke so powerful, so humiliating, that it would haunt those men forever. The image of pompous pastor and ass pastor sitting there, dumbstruck, jaws unhinged, it's burned into my memory forever. And in that moment, we all understood something deeper. For decades, Grandma had told us, my church is my mission field. We thought she just meant volunteering. We didn't realize the full weight of that statement until that day. She had spent her entire life trying to plant seeds of tolerance and compassion in a place drowning in hypocrisy and hate. And in her death, she delivered her final sermon. A sermon more powerful than any pompous pastor could ever preach. So there they sat, two smug pastors who thought they had won the jackpot, left with a single penny each. While their greatest rival, the black charity they despised, walked away with a fortune that would feed, clothe, and save countless lives. It was poetic, it was brutal, and it was exactly what they deserved. In the end, Grandma taught us something that day. True faith isn't measured by how loudly you preach or how much money you demand. It's measured by how you treat people, especially when they can't give you anything in return. And her revenge? It wasn't just about money. It was about justice, about showing the world where real love and real faith truly live. If this story gave you chills, smash that like button and tell me in the comments, what's the most satisfying revenge you've ever witnessed? And of course, subscribe for more stories like this, because trust me, we're just getting started.